Hello everyone, welcome back. It's time to talk about writing tests. It is needless to say how important is writing tests. In Ballerina, there are a bunch of interesting features to make writing tests easy and fun. So let's see how we can write tests in Ballerina. For this session, we'll be focusing on this particular resource. If you guys can remember, this resource takes an ID, talk to the database, and get the relevant user. Then that relevant user is returned to the original client. So the implementation is quite straightforward. So let's see how we can write tests for this resource. The first thing we need to do is create a test folder. Inside the test folder, create a file. Let's name it as social media service test file. Okay, so let's go back to our implementation. So for the test case, instead of using the client that connects to the actual database, we want to use a mock client. In Ballerina, it is a best practice to make module level variables final. So if you make these variables final, it is not possible to assign a mock client when running the test. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make this program testable. So let's see how we can do that. Let's create a function. Let's say init socialMediaDB, which returns my real time or an error, and the body is exactly what we have done here. Okay, so now let's use that function to initialize our time. Okay, that is done. So let's go back to our test file and let's change this function into init mock and import the relevant modules. Now let's annotate this function with this mock annotation. The function we want to mock is init social media DB, which we created a few seconds ago. Right, so now let's create a test function. Let's name it as test users by ID, which returns error or nil. So to make this a test function, we just need to annotate this function with conflict notation. Right, so now Ballerina knows that this is a test function. So inside the test function, first thing we'll do is create a user and name it as user picture. To save time, I'll just copy the value. Okay, this is the expected user. So now let's prepare our mock client with this expected value. So let's say test prepare. What we want to mock is social media DB. So when we are using this function, we just need to return user. Okay, okay, so that is done. So now we can just use our HTTP client to send a request to our resource. Again, I'll just copy that path just to save time. If you guys can remember, we are just using HTTP client here to connect to social media endpoint. And then here you can see we are using users slash user ID. So we need to pass here the user ID. So I'm just taking this from here. So the user ID we need to pass is this one. Okay, so that is done. Then we get the actual response. So finally, we just need to assert if the actual response is the same as the expected response. Again, I'll just copy that just to save time. Okay, so our test is done. One more thing we need to do is we need to copy the same config.toml file into our test folder as well. So the point here is for the test, if we want, we can use a different config.toml, and here we can actually change the relevant values. Okay, let's go back to our test file. Before we run the test, we just need to do a quick fix. Here, instead of creating the actual client, we just need to create the mock client. Okay, so this is how you create the mock client. Okay, that is done. So let's run the test. If you all can remember earlier, it was bal run, but this time it is bal test. Okay, as expected, test is passing. You can do the same thing if you click on this icon, and from here also you can run the test. Okay, one more thing that I want to show is if you do bal test report for storage, there will be two additional files. You can see there are two files. One is a JSON file, the other one is in the HTML file. So let's open that file. Okay, so this is the report. So here you can see there are some additional details. You can see the code coverage. For more details, you can click on this. Okay, so that's about this report. And that's all I wanted to discuss in this session. If you want to know more about Ballerina test framework, you can go to Ballerina by example. And here you can see a bunch of examples which explain Ballerina test framework related features. Okay, see you all in the next one.